Namaskar. Today I will discuss with you the transit of Saturn in the sign of Aquarius. Saturn is going to transit into Aquarius on 17th of January at 6:03 p.m. Now, how will this transit be for India and other countries? What are the events that are likely to take place during this transit? Now, let us first understand what are the nakshatras that come under this sign. Every Rashi or every sign is 30 degrees and every Rashi is 30 degrees. In Aquarius, we have 3 nakshatras: Dhanishta, which started from Capricorn at 23 degree 20 minutes and goes on in Aquarius and ends at 6 degree 40 minutes. So basically, Dhanishta nakshatra is part present in Capricorn and part in Aquarius. Saturn moves out of Dhanishta nakshatra in mid-March 2023, but Saturn also retrogrades in 2023, and somewhere close to mid-October, around 17th October, it will go back to Dhanishta nakshatra in retrograde motion. That is something to be, one needs to take that point into consideration. Dhanishta is the nakshatra of Mars, and Dhanishta is also called the star of symphony. It is likened to Shiva's damru and sometimes even to Krishna's flute. Shiva's dance of Tandav comes under this particular nakshatra. Mars gets its exaltation in Capricorn in Dhanishta nakshatra. Right now we are talking about Aquarius, but as I said, that Dhanishta is 6 degree 40 minutes in Capricorn and 6 degree 40 minutes in Aquarius. When Saturn had transited into Dhanishta nakshatra in Capricorn, that time was February 2022, and that is the time when the Russia-Ukraine war had started. If we look at the horoscope of Ukraine, the moon of Ukraine is in Dhanishta nakshatra, and the moment Saturn moved into that nakshatra, there was an attack on that country. Obviously, the attack was not a sudden attack. As I've always said, that US is fighting a proxy war and Ukraine is just the front. So, Ukraine had to face an assault at that point in time when Saturn moved into Dhanishta nakshatra in February 2022. Now, I've explained, so which means that Saturn in Dhanishta will only aid this war. And as I said, that on 15th March 23, when Saturn moves out of Dhanishta, it again enters back into Dhanishta on the 17th of October 2023. That's a point to be taken into consideration. Now, after 15th of March, Saturn moves into Shatabhisha nakshatra, which is the nakshatra of Rahu, which goes on from 6 degree 40 minutes Aquarius till 20 degrees Aquarius, and then we have Purva Bhadrapad, the nakshatra of Jupiter. We only see 10 degrees of Purva Bhadrapad in this nakshatra. So while we see the full Shatabhisha nakshatra, we see part Dhanishta and part Purva Bhadrapad. As I said, twice in this transit, now Saturn transits a particular sign after 30 years. It completes the full circle of the zodiacs and all the nakshatras, one full circle in 30 years. So which means it's coming to Aquarius after 30 years. In this period, Saturn will stay in Aquarius from 17th January 2023 till end of March 2025. And in this period, Saturn will retrograde twice. Once from 17th June 2023 to 4th November 2023, and the second time from 30th June 2024 till the end of September 2024. Now, both these times when Saturn will retrograde, it will take the effect of Capricorn. It'll retrograde, it'll take the effect of the sign behind the sign of Aquarius, which is Capricorn. Saturn's movement in Cancer and Capricorn has always said to affect the world order. It is not that the world order has changed right now, but remember the decade has already started from 2020. That change has already started. Basically, this Russia-Ukraine war has set the ball rolling, and it will eventually lead to the polarization of the world. Many countries will move to Russia's side and many to the side of United States. And at the end of this decade, at the end of 2030, when Saturn moves into Rohini Nakshatra, we see major chaos and the possibility of a third world war looming large in front of us. Now, the seeds of change were sowed when Saturn moved into Capricorn. The manifestation or this Russia-Ukraine war has set the ball into motion, as I've said. Saturn's entry into Capricorn marked the change of a world order, and this full decade will see the eventual polarization. We will have Russia, China, North Korea, Iran on one side, and on the other side, we will have USA, South Korea, Saudi Arabia, England, Japan, and a lot of NATO countries. Look at it from India's perspective. India's best friend Russia and India's worst enemy China will be on the same side. And Israel will be on the other side, on the side of US. US is supporting this war. As I said, USA is fighting a proxy war and Ukraine is just the front. Now, around the 20th of December, in that week, the Ukrainian president had received a 2-minute standing ovation from US lawmakers before addressing a joint session of Congress in Washington. And he delivered a message on unity, resilience, and determination. And clearly, US is in cahoots with Ukraine, and Ukraine is too small a country to have picked up a fight with Russia. It is only with the provocation and the absolute support that Ukraine receives from USA. With this intervention, US has put its first step forward towards its bleak future. So, the US economy seems to be going down in this transit of Saturn and through this decade, not just in this particular transit of Saturn, but throughout till the end of this decade. That is what I meant when I said the world order is changing. So that powerful West, that powerful Big Daddy US is now going to come down on its knees. And I don't want to use these words, but it almost seems like US will come down on its knees with a begging bowl in its hands. Not a good picture that one sees. See, this decade will be wrought with war, disease, and riots. There are pluses, there are minuses. When the world order changes, it is good for certain countries, it is not good for certain other countries. So, now, now this is a very interesting observation and given to me. And now this is a very interesting observation that was shared with us by my Jyotish Guru, Ken Rao sir. Whenever a US president has taken oath at the time of the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn, that US president is not able to complete his term. Now, some examples: President William Henry Harrison, Abraham Lincoln, A. Garfield, Franklin Roosevelt, John F. Kennedy. These are some examples. Now, I have discussed President Joe Biden's oath-taking chart in detail in another video, which I think was done last year, Afghanistan and the road ahead. In that particular video, I have in detail discussed President Joe Biden's oath-taking chart. And again, he took oath in this combination, in this conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter, and chances seem that he might not be able to complete his term. So anybody who's interested in hearing that analysis can go and watch that video. I'm really sorry about this, but there are times when I discuss 5 different topics in one video, then I can't have 5 different headings. I just put it all under one heading, and it can be confusing. I absolutely admit that, but well, when I start talking, then I can really, I move from one topic to another, and then I don't edit it. So please bear with me. Bear with me. I had done a detailed analysis on the Russia-Ukraine war sometime in September 22. I think even earlier than that. And if you'd want to hear that, I have discussed in detail about this war. I had mentioned that from the last week of December, things would become very, very difficult for Ukraine. And as I mentioned previously in this video, that Ukraine's moon is in Dhanishta Nakshatra. The moment Saturn, came very close to the natal degrees of the moon, problems sort of increased for Ukraine. Now, Saturn will move out of Dhanishta Nakshatra on the 15th of March 23. So there will be some relief in this war. But this will not stop the war. Why? Because again, Saturn will retrograde into Dhanishta Nakshatra sometime during the last quarter of the year. I've given you the date, 17th October 23. And even in this particular nakshatra of Shatabisha, this war is not going to end. It is not going to stop. We might just see some pauses. That's all. When I say pauses, low intensity will, couple itself with high intensity firing, and that is how it's going to happen. Why? Because it is not just Russia and Ukraine. Many countries are involved in this, and USA will not stop at this. They will provoke Ukraine, and I sometimes wonder, Ukrainian President Zelensky has made the country into a cremation ground at the behest of another country. I mean, what for? It was as simple as that. Just accept that you won't join NATO. Anyway, now I said that US is moving towards a poor economy cycle. Interestingly, UK, England too will suffer the effects of this transit of Saturn. And again, it's only a downslide that I'm seeing. A poor economy, and the future is showing the future of England, and I want to do a separate video on this, is showing only weak kings coming to reign. Karma has a boomerang effect. Everybody knows that. UK too is going to suffer badly with a very bad economy. And as I said, weak kings will be on the throne. Now, UK is a case of how do I say this? It's a case of a broken Shat Chakra. When you allow the Shakti of a particular Rashtra, when you allow women to be manhandled, molested, and you don't do much to protect them, then suffering is imminent. I will discuss this in detail, but I just wanted to share this with you. This transit of Saturn in Aquarius is only going to intensify the change of the world order. It will just intensify it. And by the time it's 2030 and Saturn moves into Taurus, into Kritika, because a part of Kritika is already in Aries, it is when Saturn moves into Rohini Nakshatra that we see the polarization to take its full effect and the possibility of a third world war. I will definitely discuss it in a separate video. Now let's look at the nakshatra of Shatabisha. Shatabisha is also called as Shat Taraka, 100 stars. The sign, the nakshatra of 100 physicians, medicinal herbs, healers. Saturn's transit in Shatabishat will eventually, please note, eventually give positive results after a lot of misery and sorrow. In my previous video, I've mentioned that Corona is now again going to... In my previous video, I've mentioned that Corona, its mutants, are again going to rise. And we might now see the disease in an absolutely new form. Again, lungs will be affected, the respiratory order will be affected, and the disease is going to trouble us. With Saturn in Aquarius, the seeds are sown for this disease, and from March, and more so from April end, April last week, when Jupiter joins Rahu and gains the aspect of Saturn, that is when the disease will really trouble us. Now, with Saturn's transit in Shatabishat, our scientists and doctors will eventually be successful in bringing out a medicine or a dose that can fight the ever-evolving mutants of Corona. So that will happen. And when Saturn moves into Purva Bhadrapad Nakshatra, in this sign of Aquarius, we see the death rate, the casualties again building up. So this is going to be a cat and mouse race with the disease and with our doctors trying to fight it. So that is going to happen. Now, let's come to China. This transit of Saturn in Aquarius is going to really trouble China. I have said it in my videos that I've done in 2020 on Tokyo Olympics and even after that China will suffer badly. Casualties are going to be much higher in China. Economies any which way is going to be very, very poor for China, and life loss is heavy for China. Now, to divert the attention of its people and to tackle this disease, China will attack our borders. That is going to happen. China will not be successful, but it will be a strategy to divert the attention of its people. So our borders, in this transit of Saturn, our borders, China is going to create trouble at our borders, and so will Pakistan. Now, in this transit, one can see that internal conflict in Pakistan is going to be clearly, it is outlined. So now, I can also see when one studies the horoscope of Pakistan, that Pakistan too will be active at our borders and will create trouble at our borders. Now, also note that internal conflict in Pakistan will become very, very strong during this particular transit. So whether it is the ethnic groups or it is the Baloch people fighting for their independence, these groups are going to become very strong, and Pakistan will have to will see this division in power, and this is not a good time for Pakistan. When you look at the chart, one can also see that there is going to be loss of land. There are combinations in the horoscope of Pakistan which will cause loss of land not just once or twice or thrice, but more than that. Now, this first combination that is going to come in place is from December 2023 onwards. From December 23 onwards, Pakistan runs a period for a couple of years where it is clear that there is going to be loss of land. Combinations that happened when the Bangladesh war was there are repeating itself again and again in this horoscope. So as I said, it is not just going to be once or twice that there is going to be loss of land. It is going to be more than that. Pakistan also sees the loss of a leader. It could be a political assassination, or they could take someone to the gallows, an important leader. So loss of land and loss of a leader. These are two very prominent combinations that are coming up in this particular transit of Saturn in Aquarius in the horoscope of Pakistan. Now let's look at Iran. For a Cancer ascendant, Saturn is going to transit into Iran's 8th house, Aquarius. Now, you've seen there have been some violent protests in Iran on the hijab. Women have burnt their hijabs. They've cut their hair. They've gone bald. Now, this sign of Shakti, of women going bald, removing their hair, is an ominous sign. For any country, when women wail and are tortured or harassed, it is not a good sign for the well-being of that country. I'd given you an example of England, but I'd not completely. That is a different story. This is a different story. So, country always needs to have strong laws that protect its women. It's important. They have to be protected. Shakti has to be protected. Okay, now let's move on. Now, in the beginning of the year, beginning of 2023, on the 15th of January, Mars is going direct in the Prithvi Tattva Rashi of Taurus. On the 17th of January, Saturn is transiting its sign from Makar. Makar is a Prithvi Tattva Rashi, Makar is Capricorn, to Aquarius or Kumbh, which is a Vayu Tattva, airy sign. And on the 18th of January, Mercury is going direct from retrograde motion in Sagittarius, and it also has the effect of Mars, the 8th aspect of Mars. In the beginning of the year itself and throughout the first few months, the possibility of an earthquake is coming across strongly. In fact, 2023 is also going to be the year of earthquakes. Why? Because every time Saturn in Aquarius retrogrades, and I've given you the dates of retrogression, then also in both the years, earthquakes are a possibility. When I say possibility, well, one is sure to expect earthquakes. I haven't worked on it in detail to look at, directions, and believe me, it's not just one astrologer, as my Jyotish Guru has always said, it's not just one astrologer who can sit down and then work on earthquakes and then give directions. Then a whole division has to be formed with, seismologists and astrologers who work together and then work out and predict. That will be for the well-being of the nation, any nation. But there have to be people who've done really well. As Rao sir always said, there was a gentleman, there was an astrologer from Pune by the name of S.K. Kelkar, and he was a master in predicting earthquakes, a master. But he never really passed on his knowledge to other people, and he went away. And it is said that scientists from Russia, and if I'm not mistaken, even Germany, had come to understand his techniques. So that is something that's an interesting piece that I wanted to share with you. Anyway, what is lost when an astrologer dies and doesn't share with you his knowledge, his research of long years, then a lot is lost. A lot is lost. Anyway. Okay. So as I said, 23, 24, one can expect earthquakes. The possibility is looming large. And in fact, in the beginning of the year, again, one can see tectonic shifts happening. In this transit of Saturn in Aquarius, specifically in Shatavisha Nakshatra, one can see airstrikes, air accidents, missile attacks by warring countries. This is definitely going to happen. So that too is coming to us with this transit of Saturn in Aquarius. Now, There is a very interesting, there are these very interesting native sayings by Ghag Bhaddari. And one of them is that every time Saturn transits over Leo, then the city of Delhi suffers through natural calamities, or suffers due to, yes, largely natural calamities. Now, Saturn's transit in Aquarius is not on Leo, but from Aquarius it is going to give its seventh aspect to the sign of Leo. So again, one can expect effects of what is going to happen in the Himalayan region to percolate down to New Delhi, and those effects will be felt in the city. So we have to be ready for some tectonic shifts again in this city. And already in the beginning of the year, one has witnessed minor tremors. Now, this transit of Saturn in Aquarius will be good for India's economy. Why? Because for a Taurus Lagna ascendant, for the horoscope of independent India, the 10th house is Aquarius and the 10th Lord Saturn is transiting in it. However, if we always make a horoscope for the exact time of transit. So if that horoscope is made for the 17th of January 23 at 18:03:54 seconds, then we see that Saturn is in the 8th house in that chart for a Cancer ascendant. Now, I don't want to confuse you with technicalities, but remember that even though the economy, any which way the economy in this decade for India is only going to take an upward swing, it is going to be strong, and India will become very powerful by the end of 2030. I have said it in very many previous videos that I have done. However, in this particular transit of Kumbha, there can be some hiccups in the economy, okay, because of the 8th house position of Saturn in the Gochar horoscope, aspecting the 10th, which is for a Cancer ascendant, an Aries sign in the 10th. I am juxtaposing the two and therefore telling you that though the economy is good for this transit of Saturn in Aquarius, but there can be some hiccups, some periods where it will suddenly, there will be a break, there will be a jolt from the blue, and then we will recover. Unlike many other countries which might not recover from a loss, from monetary loss, and China is one of them. I have said it in very many previous videos. I have said this in many of my previous videos, that China's economy is doing a nosedive till almost 2027, 2028. I have, in that video that I have done on Kashmir, I have mentioned that Ketu's entry into Chitra Nakshatra is always a period of trouble for kings in power. Ketu is just about to enter Chitra Nakshatra. Now, I will refer to the Udyog Parva, chapter 143 in the Mahabharata. Here, there is a dialogue between Karna and Lord Krishna. Karna tells Krishna that he knows that the Kauravas will lose, whose side he is fighting, and he explains it. He gives a purely astrological reason for it. He says that Saturn is afflicting Prajapati Brahma's nakshatra Rohini. Second, Mars is retrograding in Jeshta nakshatra and entering Anuradha nakshatra, which is an indication for fall and destruction of kings in power together with their friends. And the third principle he gives is the entry of Ketu in Chitra nakshatra. Now, Ketu, like Dhanishta, is partly there in Virgo and then in Libra. Currently, Ketu is transiting in Libra. And on the 7th of July, 2023, Ketu enters into Chitra Nakshatra, and from there till the last week of January 2024, Ketu remains in Chitra Nakshatra. When this happens, war builds up and kings in power go through immense trouble. It is an indication for fall and destruction of kings. There is a chance of a political assassination, a political leader who can go in this period, a famous leader. I have given you the time frame, and I have also told you where it has come, the reference. Now there is also an interesting reference in the Padma Puran, which in the Uttarakhand section there is a reference to the explanation given by Lord Shiva to Rishi Narad about the role of Saturn in Medhini as well as individual horoscopy. There is a reference there that now saints and sages go to Raja Dashrath, and see, now this is we are going from Mahabharata to the Ramayana. They tell King Dashrath that Saturn has reached the end of Kritika Nakshatra, 10 degrees in Taurus, and is about to enter Rohini Nakshatra, and he is warned, King Dashrath is warned by the saints that this would lead to terrible famine and war. So King Dashrath then goes to the Nakshatra Lok on the advice of sages and praises Saturn with the Shani Stotram. It is also called the Neel Shani Stotram. He praises Lord Saturn, and he says, ask me for a boon. So King Dashrath requests him not to do Shakat Bhedan. This entry of Saturn in Rohini Nakshatra is also called Rohini Shakat Bhedan Yog, as mentioned in the book Shani Shaman. So King Dashrath requests Saturn to not do Shakat Bhedan, which can cause famine and war for 12 years. And Lord Saturn, Shani Dev, blesses King Dashrath that he gives this boon to the king that he would not transgress his boundaries and cause trouble to the praja. And that is a reference that one can read in Padma Puran. I tell a lot of people, and that when you meet a friend and somebody has a birthday, please gift a book from Gita Press Gorakhpur, gift a Puran, gift an ancient scripture. Let our children, our next generation learn from the scriptures. Why not? And why? It's not just Gita Press Gorakhpur. There are many others that are available, but this is so readily available. So why not? This is a great idea. There's a lot of learning in our ancient scriptures. My Jyotish Guru, Ken Rao sir, has always said that the principles, the astrological principles that you read in these scriptures are infallible. Infallible. In Padma Puran, one reads that Lord Saturn says this to King Dashrath, that anyone who recites this stotra that you have recited will not be troubled by me. And these are the words, I'm quoting the Padma Puran, that whether in Gochar, or whether in transit, or in the dashas or antardashas, whether on the Janmasthan, which is on the moon, or on the 4th, or Mrityusthan, which is the 8th, anybody who has this transit will not suffer my ill effects if they recite this particular stotram. This Shani Stotram is mentioned in the Padma Puran. In the end of this video, you will see it on your screens, and then you can go on the internet and find it, download it, and please do recite it. If you think that this is a bit too long for you to read, then there is the Navagraha Stotram, Maharishi Vyas rachit Navagraha Stotram. You can recite the Shani mantra from there. Neelanjana samabhasam raviputram yamagrajam chaya martanda sambhutam tam namami shanescharam. So with this I have shared some remedies. In Padma Puran it is also mentioned. There are some other remedies also mentioned there. You can read the book and you will get to know. I have shared with you the dates of Ketu entering Chitra Nakshatra. 7th July 2023 to January last week 2024. And this is a period where war builds up and kings in power fall. There is a fall of kings in power, destruction of kings in power. And I have said that this could also be a period of a political assassination or a tragedy pertaining to a political leader. Okay, I would leave it at that. So with this, I end this analysis. I hope I have added to your repertoire of knowledge. Thank you. Namaskar.